welcome to Virtual Concert Hall's live music channel. My name is Chris Au, and I have with me the co-founder of Virtual Concert Halls, Dr. Anna Ospenskaya.
Chris, thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. And if you're joining us for fifth, 10th time, welcome back. And if that's the very first time you're joining us, you're in for the treat as we're exploring the magnificency of Beethoven's genius and his symphonies. And I'm so pleased to be co-hosting this with you, Chris.
Yes, wonderful to be back. And this is part 8 of the documentary of Beethoven's Symphony No. 6, written and narrated by Lawrence Rapchak, created by New Media Productions Worldwide and Virtual Concert Halls, and produced by Architects of Music.
And we're forever grateful to everyone involved, all these organizations, and of course the incredible people who put together their talents and their hands in producing those absolutely astounding films by Beethoven's symphonies. What connects us all is this passion for connecting musicians and audiences from around the globe.
And the main motive of the finale that you heard is significant for a couple of reasons. It's a simple C major triad, just 3 notes, and it's written to imitate a rustic wind instrument, a shepherd's pipe or something hollowed out of a tree branch, an intentionally primitive sound, which is now taken up by a hunting horn in F major, with fifths in the violas and celli. Very magical writing. And this motif will signal every important structural junction in the finale. And as the finale begins, we realize that this pastoral symphony of Beethoven's consists of 5 and not 4 movements, as was the custom, and that the final 3 movements are linked together as the program requires. Peasant party interrupted by the storm moves off, and now the shepherd's happiness and feelings of thanks, as Beethoven describes it. And even though we've seen that Beethoven did not invent this format where approaching storms are concerned, he certainly reinvented it in terms of its dramatic potential. Also important are the character and the rhythmic meter of this finale. There's no grand, triumphant fanfares here introducing the finale as in the Fifth Symphony, but a gentle pastoral, continuing the familiar Baroque tradition. Pastorals are graceful and harmonious in a lilting triple meter, often associated with the shepherds at Christmas, as in the pastoral, or pifa as it's called, from Handel's Messiah. Or here, music again by the English composer William Boyce, forced to take a back seat to the German Handel's wildly popular music in London. This is the second movement of Boyce's short overture symphony, number 4, a lovely and lively pastoral in all but name. And these examples give you an idea of the pastoral genre that preceded Beethoven. Here are 3 things now about the finale's architecture to listen for. First, the almost continual presence of that simple primal call. And it hovers over the music with that sense of joy that Beethoven spoke of. Second, just as in the second movement, there is an almost continuous flowing motion to this finale, beginning with a simple figure in the violins. And it evolves throughout, as is so typical of Beethoven. And third is the finale's unusual structure, its architecture, which consists of 5 major sections or panels, and all except the second one of them culminate in a grand climax, a broad, expansive passage with glorious, sustained harmonies in the winds and violins. Here is the first of these passages. You can almost imagine the Greek god of the sun, Apollo, riding through the blazing sky in his chariot. I don't think I'll go there now, not just yet. I assume that some of you know what I'm referring to. More about this at the end. So now we have these 5 major sections or panels upon which this finale is built. And as I said, all but the second contain that majestic music. So here's the basic plan. Sections 1, 2, and 3 almost function like a miniature sonata: exposition, development, and recapitulation. And the other 2 big sections, numbers 4 and 5, basically mirror one another, both of them containing that big, glorious climax that we've heard. So the first section begins with the shepherd triad motive, as we heard, which now becomes the main theme of the finale in the first violins in F major. And here's the subdominant chord. Yes, very important. Here it is again. And the theme now repeats in the second violins, as the first violins take up the pastoral filigree, leading to the first of those majestic passages. And we now hear a new vigorous theme with robust energy in its accompaniment. And as we move now into C major, the dominant key, where Beethoven, as he so often does, will take a piece of the theme. In this case, it's the end of this theme. This descending figure. Da, 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 da. And listen to how he uses it to extend this joyous music. And hear how it grew into a magnificent, full version of the simple shepherd motive. There's the subdominant chord. And that's the first of the 5 panels of the finale. Again, it's like a mini exposition. It had 2 themes, then the big climactic passage, settling into the dominant key of C major. We now move back into the tonic F major, and the second major section begins, which is essentially a repeat of section 1, but the filigree passage will now modulate into B flat major, so the subdominant key, where we encounter a brand new theme, a lovely, graceful tune, very bucolic in character, especially with this progression. And we've moved into D flat major for a return of the main theme. Again, we're in the second section of the finale, which functions as something of a development section. Now we move into C major with the shepherd theme in the cello and bass. But over it, the flowing figuration now assumes a new motivic shape, like so, which will return at the very end of the symphony. But now it combines with a full statement of the main tune. Here is everything together. And you heard the vigorous motive suddenly relax, while the shepherd tune in the flute, and a transition now right into the third major section of the finale. So there's great symmetry here. The first and second sections both begin the same way, and both ended with a grand statement of this main shepherd tune. But the second section introduced that lovely new theme, which unfortunately will not appear again.
Okay, so 5 panels in a symphony of 5 movements. Let's talk about how brilliant
numbers.
this is.
That's right.
Yes, it's like the sort of the Russian doll thing. There's like a little smaller one each that comes in, a little cells
That's right.
that make up the bigger piece. Wow, very
But
cool.
definitely what Larry Rapchak is unfolding and looking deeper and deeper is there's no accident in there.
Yeah.
It's all planned, and remember in one of the previous programs, I think I mentioned that the portraits of Beethoven often portray his room being in quite a disarray with all those papers
Yes,
lying around.
yes.
Yeah. What was he writing on those papers? Probably planning and scratching the plans, and then snippets of themes, and deciding on which theme he's going to take and develop, how much, how many measures, and how to proportionalize all of that. This is a really architectural construction.
Yes.
And I have a question for you, Chris, and for everyone who is watching.
Yes.
Now, we are really digging deep into the architecture of a musical symphony.
Yes.
Who is going to benefit from learning all of this intricacies and all of this complexity, which definitely, Larry has a good outlook on what Beethoven did in terms of constructing the symphony for the purpose of the effect he was going to get. Who is going to learn the most out of this kind of exploration? What do you think, Chris?
That's a very good question. I think you have to look at why we study science. Why do we look into the finer details of the world we see? And now with this, we are looking into the finer details of what we hear and what we listen, what we're listening to, essentially. And so when we are faced with a creation that is we deem great, just like in our natural world, like a mountain or a lake or the ocean and the creatures that live
or the storm,
or the storm, and in the atmosphere, or the in space, just as we are curious about what constitutes these natural phenomenons and great monuments of natural creation, we ought also to look into what we listen to and hear. And it's very similar, I guess, in a way, to reading a great book and then going into an English literature course to see what it is that comprises such a great piece of literature. We are, with Larry, looking into what it is that is created in an attempt to see and perhaps admire something that is inspiring to us, and hopefully inspires us to create something as well, or be a part of something that is a creation. And that is a really wonderful gift that we have in our journey in life, that more often than not, we are called upon Oh, and we have the ability to create art, even if you're deaf and blind, and with in very difficult circumstances, like Helen Keller, or if you are in, even if you have just a little canvas or a piece of paper, you can write and draw. And the thing about being human is we have this ability to create and express ourselves, and I think we benefit when we look at how other people have created great works of art. We benefit when we look into nature and see for ourselves how great works of creation are created and put together, and the brilliance, even if you're a biologist and you're looking into the creation of animals and reptiles, and how their brains function, how their different parts of their body help to make everything, how the parts become whole. And this is what we're doing. We're looking into how the little parts, these 5 panels, 5 sections, make up the last movement, right? And it's what's brilliant is the cell on the cellular level. We have the main motive of the finale. And then I'm going to pose a question to you now. And what's so interesting, what's so brilliant, and what's so original about this main motive, which is a simple C major triad that is meant to imitate or mimic the primitive sound of a shepherd's call? What is it? Why this simple cell?
I may say something which not everyone will agree with, but to me,
that's totally fine.
Yeah, thank you. But to me, the short answer is nothing. There's nothing significant, nothing unique, nothing unusual. And Beethoven is one of those composers where he was more focused on development of the material as opposed to creating an absolutely captivating, unique material. Da 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 da. What's significant about it? Nothing. And nothing was until Beethoven placed it in his phenomenal symphony and displayed the potential, the journey, the dramaticism of how that simple shepherd's pipe tune functions in the environment which he creates with the rest of the elements and the rest of the development which Beethoven creates throughout his symphony. So that's my short answer.
Yeah, I think to add on to that, which is quite inspiring, and it relates to the question you asked me, and which is why is it so important for us to actually study this? Who can benefit? And what's inspiring on a more philosophical level is that the creation of something as brilliant as Beethoven's Sixth Symphony, this last movement, is comprised of something very, very simple. It's meant to call upon our ears to something very easy to listen to, very accessible, and yet
that tune, I want to say, sounds almost like an earworm, don't you think?
Yeah, and it's not easy. It's not easy to forget either. It's not difficult to remember in a way, because it's very primitive.
It's like a pop song.
Yeah, and there's nothing.
Beethoven wasn't snobbish, wasn't looking down at pop songs and even
folk tunes and
pun not intended, pub songs. He would be,
yes.
he was a frequenter of pubs and was collecting the songs which were just sung by people who just regulars of pubs. Yeah, but go on with your thoughts.
Oh no, I just think that it's quite inspiring to realize that anything truly great starts off quite simple, and if you look scientifically, how basically from dust, we're made out of certain stardust and carbon. Really, it's on a very, very basic elemental level. We made a multitude of very simple things that build up into something great. And just like when you're thinking of building something great or writing something great, it again starts with very simple steps, very simple things that then turn into something great, as long as you have, as we mentioned in the previous episode, the will to really want to develop that. And let's talk a little bit about what he does, that to summarize what Larry says, and which, again, yet not too difficult to put together. He uses the fifths in lower string writing to create the sense of expansion, of continuous flow, right? He has this main melody, very simple, floating upon the fifths, and it's nothing grand about it, or there's no triumphant finale, which is different from the Fifth Symphony, which we heard
That's
as
right.
well, right? And yet it's a very gentle, pastoral, familiar, baroque feeling that's quite similar to, as Larry Rapchak says, Handel's Messiah. So this is a really wonderful stage that is set up, and then the journey begins, because I often think that the simpler things start, then when the drama appears and builds and culminates, that's when things get really interesting.
Exactly. And the reason Larry focuses on the architecture of it is because by looking at how the small, simple elements interact with each other in and stretched throughout the course of the development of the symphony, that's what creates the fulfilling and rich journey, and frankly represents each person's life journey. We all start
Absolutely.
the day with a daylight, and that's something very common, normal thing. Yet every day develops and connects with the next day and interactions, and it becomes incredibly complex and incredibly rich. And that's to me, the power of Beethoven's positive energy, where he's teaching through that architecture how this every small thing has an incredibly profound meaning when it's put in and stretched into development and the context. And nothing small can be, underestimated. It's in size, or like that theme is only 3 notes, right? What can be smaller? You can do 2 notes maybe. But still, it becomes significant in the context and in the development.
Yeah, I think we already know what Beethoven is really quite capable of by the Sixth Symphony. I mean, even by the first bunch of piano sonatas and the first piano trios that he wrote, we are already kind of experiencing some sort of genius at work. So we already know what he's capable of. So for him to go back in the Sixth Symphony and use something very simple, for me, has a very extraordinary meaning, in that don't overlook the ordinary. Don't overlook the primitive, ordinary shepherd call, the pastoral, the simple, natural, elemental things in life that culminate into something great and
If you put
monumental.
the will into it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. No, exactly. No, right? Like, isn't it amazing that he obviously was set out to prove himself on a stage, but what he uses to prove himself isn't all that how should I
It's
say, like, complex in its original form. It's not complex in its inception. It's complex probably in its expansion, but it's not really quite so complex. And I think
and
that's a very inspiring thing.
I think so too, and that makes it also so easy to. His music is just so easy to connect with. There are few composers. Vivaldi is one of them, for example, where the music just flows into you and becomes part of you without any meeting any resistance. Maybe at the time when it was composed, it did meet resistance of sophisticated professionals in the field, but for the just listener, if I forget about my professional background and I just listen to music, music of Beethoven is one of the most straightforward to connect emotionally. And not meeting that resistance is probably rooted in his incredible respect for the simplicity and his complete unpretentiousness. There's no pretense in pretending, well, I'm creating something grand. No, I'm just looking at the grandeur of everything in life, and especially in like simple things like C major arpeggio.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree completely. And isn't that quite inspiring for us to realize
Yes.
that even um, great things that one usually wants to accomplish, or you'd hope that you want to accomplish, doesn't necessarily mean that every single act or stage in it has to be entirely very complex or convoluted. It can be very simple, and then the journey goes on. I think of it sort of when people do long sort of marathons or bike. People do cycling, from one end of the country to the other. They do these great journey and trips. And I haven't done that before, but I can imagine, and I want to, obviously, but I can imagine that every day the simple thing is just to get on that bike or just get on that road and walk one step at a time. Each step isn't that complicated, but you just gotta
But
get
together
out
they
and...
make a great journey.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes it's harder to do than others, but it's a very ordinary, in a very respectful, ordinary way, the simplicity of something like this. And I think, even when he goes into the second panel and then moves into B flat major, and there's a new theme that is encountered, and it's very bucolic and peasant-like and full of pastoral color, it's not that complicated either. It's something very simple, and I think this is something to learn from Beethoven, something to really be admirable, to admire about him.
And maybe even take a fresh look at our own lives in music and in everyday events, and see if we discover the dramatic potential in something as simple as good morning, looking at the sun rising.
Yes. And I definitely feel, for example, that this is a little meta now, but like doing shows like this continuously and to kind of do it again and again and again, and each time just showing up and doing it and talking on screen and having conversations with you, Dr. Anna, is part of this ordinariness, but that builds into hopefully a collection of great broadcasts that we can look back upon and say this is something really quite an accomplishment. But it is really comprised of very little pieces and little acts that make it what it is. And with that, I want to give you a big hand and to say thank you for everything. This is an incredible journey that we are embarking on, and it wouldn't be possible without our team as well, and collaborators, including New Media Productions Worldwide, the amazing team at Virtual Concert Halls, directors, technical directors, people who do video editing, social media management, scripts, everything. And of course, architects of music and the incredible Larry Rapchak, who is just without a doubt one of the most engaging communicators of art I have encountered in a long time. I think he is on par with someone like Leonard Bernstein in how he explains and discusses these great pieces of music.
Yeah, and then hopefully we can have a link to Larry Rapchak's bio, so everyone can check out and learn more about this absolutely incredible musician and narrator and author of the stories behind those films, which were done. So look in the descriptions, find the link, and find out a little bit more about him. And I want to also give it big shout out to James Welch on the back of this broadcast, who's producing these shows for us. He's a pianist and conductor and a director of the live internet TV shows and many videos. Thank you very much, everyone. And I want to thank also our audience, because we get a lot of feedback, we get a lot of positive energy back, and people sharing with us that they enjoy our shows, that those shows bring something positive into their life, and we're very grateful for your attention and very glad that our efforts are producing just what we want: more positivity and more energy and more good energy in the world. Yes.
So if you want to support us and be a part of our shows, or collaborate with us and to support us even financially, we are open to any sort of amazing arrangement and sponsorship as well as collaboration. Please check our website at virtualconcerthalls.com. You can visit our season at soundexpressivocompetition.com, progressivemusicians.com, and choreorchestra.com for a lot of incredible opportunities to perform and to collaborate with us, but also to see what it is that we do. And with that, we have part 9 coming up, which is the last part, actually, of the Beethoven VI documentary series. And once again, thank you, Dr. Anna, and we'll see everybody next time.
Thank you, Chris. See you all next time. Bye.
No matter where you are or who you are, music connects us all. We started with a dream, but now we are paving the future. Welcome to the Sound Espressiva Global Competition. Fully virtual, yet bringing musicians closer together than ever before, now on a global scale. True live, inclusivity, diversity, connection, community, an extraordinary array of judges. Get noticed by companies all over the world. Prizes, scholarships, performance opportunities. Apply to be a part of the most exciting congregation of artists like nothing you've ever seen before. We guarantee quality and leave no musician behind. We can't wait to hear you on the virtual stage.